Today on the audio hotline, I'm going to be doing a review of a new version of a microphone that I've previously tested. This sort of like new version sequel to a microphone that already existed has kind of been happening a decent amount recently. And of course, the company that started this trend was Shure. Shure originally came out with the Shure MV7, and then later on they came out with just an XLR version, the MV7X, which to me is slightly bass-ackwards because you'd think that they would keep adding features rather than being like, here's a new version with less stuff. I get it though, I'm just messing around. But the microphone that I'm testing out today has a very similar story to the MV7X. The microphone to your left is the Samson Q9U. It's been out for a little while and I do have a review of the Q9U. And then the microphone on your right is the microphone I'm going to be doing a full review for today. It is the Samson Q9X. And much like the differences between the Shure MV7 and MV7X, the Samson Q9U is capable of USB and XLR, while the Q9X is capable of XLR. But I don't want there to be any confusion, even though the Q9U and the Q9X are on the screen right now and I'm switching back and forth in between them. This is not a comparison necessarily. I mean, it is, like currently, right now, it is a comparison. But this is a full review for the Q9X. I just wanted to get this comparison out of the way immediately. However, there will be an additional comparison later on. It will be a blind comparison. And that comparison will absolutely include the MV7X, as well as the Q9U and some other ones that I'll put up on the screen right now. But aside from the Q9X not having a USB output, you can tell that there is a slight physical difference. The Q9X has a little silver grill, and I actually really find it appealing. I think it looks cute. But interestingly enough, the front of the grill on the Q9X is actually still black, like the Q9U. The two other physical differences that I can see is the Q9U does have a mute button, as well as a high-pass filter switch on the back. The Q9X does not have either of those, however, it does have the flat and mid-boost mode like the Q9U. But as far as the build quality goes on each of these, they're essentially identical. They're both built very well. But another difference is the price. When I initially reviewed the Q9U, it was $200. But actually at one point recently, the Q9U went on sale for a couple days for like $130. But most places currently have the Q9U priced around $169.99. But the Q9X is actually priced at $129.99. But the only other thing that I was told that was changed from the Q9U to the Q9X was the capsule. Now, I'm slightly unsure if this is a completely new capsule. I've heard from my friend Bark over at Obscure Mics that they told him that it was an updated capsule, and to me they said that the capsule had been tweaked, so I'm not entirely sure if it's different or if they just changed the sound of it. Now, to me it doesn't really matter if it has a tweaked capsule or a new capsule. Personally, I would just like it to sound a little bit better, but I will say I have been really excited to try out the Q9X and see how different it sounds and if I like it more. And I can tell you for sure I do like the price more, even though you will need some sort of audio interface field recorder with this microphone since it is only XLR. But for me, dude, XLR wins every time. Every damn time. I do prefer XLR microphones, so I am really excited to see what they improved, what they did differently with the Q9X. Currently, I am recording both of these into my Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 going into Hindenburg on my MacBook Pro. They're both set to hit -12 decibels, and they are actually set at identical levels. But here in a second, I am going to switch exclusively to the Q9X and tell you about the accessories. However, I did just want to give you a quick sample of both of these microphones not being in flat mode anymore, but both of them having the mid-boost on. But now that we've done that little comparison, that battle between two siblings, I just made two family members fight each other for you, so you could hear them. Okay, I'm getting a little off topic. Let's go ahead and single out the Q9X and talk about the accessories. I will also touch on the features in this section also. If you decide to purchase the Samson Q9X, it will come with a gigantic windscreen. It will come with a yoke mount that is permanently attached. It comes with a 5/8 inch threading, and I did not receive a stand adapter with it. However, the area where you mount this to a stand spins around freely, so you don't have to spin the microphone or the mic stand around. The main feature that the Samson Q9X has is a switch on the back that switches between flat and mid-boost mode. The accessories and features of the Q9X are all good. At $129.99, it really comes with everything that you would expect it to. Some people could be a little bit bugged that it doesn't come with a stand adapter, but I'm actually just happy it doesn't because I have way too many anyway. But the windscreen seems identical to the original Q9U, and since this microphone is freaking big. It's a big windscreen. But now that I told you the accessories and the features while I was in mid-boost mode with the windscreen on, now I'm going to put it in flat mode, leave the windscreen on, and tell you the specs. The Samson Q9X is a dynamic microphone with a humbucking coil. It has a frequency response of 60 Hz to 20 kHz, a cardioid polar pattern, an impedance of 270 ohms, a max sensitivity of -58 dBV per pascal, with 1 pascal equaling 94 dB SPL. This has a max SPL of greater than 140 dB, and the body construction is made of aluminum and the grille is made of steel. I'll put all of the specs up on the screen so you can check them out. Well, now that we've gone through the accessories, the features, and the specky specs, now let's go ahead and start testing out the Samson Q9X. First, I'm just going to talk into the microphone, test out the flat mode, the mid-boost mode, and each of those modes with and without the windscreen. Now, the owner's manual says to be about 4 to 12 inches away from this microphone. We'll also test that distance here in a second, but I'd say I'm about 5 inches away from the microphone right now. Here's flat mode with no windscreen. Here's flat mode with a windscreen. Here's mid-boost mode with no windscreen. And here's mid-boost mode with a windscreen. Now let's go ahead and get really close to this microphone and see how it sounds in flat mode when I'm hella close to it. And now here's how it sounds when I'm really close to the microphone with mid-boost mode on. And now I'm in flat mode, really close to the microphone with the windscreen on. And now I'm right on top of the microphone that kind of smells like chalk from a gymnastics gym. This has the windscreen on and mid-boost mode on. Now this next part's gonna get a little bit loud. We're gonna do some plosives. Plosive test with some pickled peanuts. Pickled peanuts. 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 Now, if you were just typing on a regular Mac keyboard directly behind this microphone, here's how it would reject that sound. Now, if you were to use a really loud keyboard with some Cherry MX Blues, here's how it would reject that sound. And now if I were to spin this microphone around while I'm talking into it, here's the side of the microphone talking into the side, and here's the back of the microphone. Now I'm spinning it right back around, and there's the front again. Now let's take the polar pattern test one damn step further. Let's get funky with some white noise. Now we're going to do the most important test that there is in audio. A kitty purr test. And now we're going to test the distance that Samson recommends. Right now we are currently 4 inches away from the microphone. And now we are 8 inches away from the microphone. And now we are 12 inches away from the Q9X. And now if you wanted to use this microphone for podcasting, here's how it would sound with no EQ aside from just a high pass filter to get rid of some rumble. But it will have some compression, maybe a limiter. I'll label whatever else I use up on the screen so you can just check that right on out. Now here is the exact same post-processing, but this is with the Q9X's mid-boost mode on. Now we have the same post-processing mid-boost mode on and the windscreen on. Now we have the exact same post-processing on in flat mode with a windscreen on. Now we're going to go into an untreated room and test it out there. Now I have the Q9X in a completely untreated room. This room is pretty reverberant. It may not be the worst case room ever, but I would assume that a majority of people have better sounding rooms in their houses. But right now the Q9X is in flat mode, and here's how it sounds in a pretty reverberant room. And now I've switched it into the mid-boost mode, and here's how this sounds in a completely untreated room. Now I'm going to go ahead and do a few tests with my acoustic guitar and electric guitar. Well, now that I've gone through all the tests that I wanted to do, now it's finally time for that awesome blind comparison. Here is just a real quick palate cleanser microphone. This is the PreSonus PD70. I just wanted to give you a little something to clean the absolute hell out of your ear holes. And I also just wanted to let you know that I am going to be using the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 the entire comparison, and also that I am going to be exactly 4 inches away from each microphone. Well, let's not waste any more time and let's just get into this blind comparison. You are currently listening to microphone number 1 in this blind comparison. You are currently listening to microphone number 2 in this blind comparison. You are currently listening to microphone number 3 in this blind comparison. You are currently listening to microphone number 4 in this blind comparison. You are currently listening to microphone number 5 in this blind comparison. You are currently listening to microphone number 6 in this blind comparison. You are currently listening to microphone number 7 in this blind comparison. You are currently listening to microphone number 8 in this blind comparison. Now here is a second audio test for microphone number 2 in this blind comparison. Now here is the second audio test for microphone number 4 in this blind comparison. Now here is a second audio test for microphone number 6 in this blind comparison. Now here's the second audio test for microphone number 8 in this blind comparison. Now here is the second audio test for microphone number 1 in this blind comparison. Now here is the second audio test for microphone number 3 in this blind comparison. Now here is the second audio test for microphone number 5 in this blind comparison. Now here is the second audio test for microphone number 7 in this blind comparison. Audio test 3 for microphone number 3. Here is how this microphone sounds. Audio test 3 for microphone number 6. Here is how this microphone sounds. Audio test 3 for microphone number 1. Here is how this microphone sounds. Audio test number 3 for microphone number 4. Here is how this microphone sounds. Audio test 3 for microphone number 7. Here is how this microphone sounds. Audio test 3 for microphone number 2. Here is how this microphone sounds. Audio test number 3 for microphone number 5. Here is how this microphone sounds. Audio test 3 for microphone number 8. Here is how this microphone sounds. This is the final test for microphone number 7 in this blind comparison. This is the final test for microphone number 1 in this blind comparison. This is the final test for microphone number 5 in this blind comparison. This is the final test for microphone number 4 in this blind comparison. This is the final test for microphone number 8 in this blind comparison. This is the final test for microphone number 3 in this blind comparison. This is the final test for microphone number 2 in this blind comparison. This is the final test for microphone number 6 in this blind comparison. Now we have a different palate cleanser microphone right here. This is the Mayano PD400X in XLR mode. And I'm sure you want to get into the big reveal of this blind comparison, so let's just go ahead and jump right into that. Microphone number 1 was the Shure SM7B that usually comes in at $399. Microphone number 2 was the Rode PodMic that usually comes in around $100. Microphone number 3 was the Samson Q9U, which usually goes anywhere from $170 to $200, but can sometimes be found for a little bit lower. Microphone number 4 was the Audio-Technica AT2040, and it usually comes in around $100. Microphone number 5 was the microphone this whole review has been about, the Samson Q9X, and this comes in at $129.99. Microphone number 6 was the Shure MV7X, that usually goes for $170. Microphone number 7 was the Donner PO-8. It can go anywhere from about $60 to $100, just depending on the sale. Microphone number 8 was a super sneaky thing that I did. It was the Samson Q9X, but in mid-boost mode. Well, now I've done an edit on the first section of this review, listened to the comparison a bunch, and now I'm finally ready to give you my opinion of the Samson Q9X. And let me just say, I might be a little bit of a grumpy pants, a little grumpster, when it comes to this review section, because I've actually already shot this review section once. I had an issue with my HDMI cable going to my Atomos external recorder, and I lost a lot of the review section. So I'm doing this for a second time, which is just so fun. I love doing that. So, yeah. But while I do this review section, not only will I switch back and forth between flat mode and mid-boost mode, I will also use just a couple other microphones just so you can hear even more options against this mic. But I'll indicate which microphone you are listening to down here somewhere. The first mic I have here is the Shure SM58, which goes for about $100. In my blind comparison, I realized that I didn't have any handheld dynamic microphones, so I figured I'd just include them in this review section. And currently the Q9X is in flat mode. But I do realize that a lot of people that want a broadcast-style dynamic microphone are getting it not only for the potentially good sound, but also the look. I know that that matters to a lot of people. Some people hate when I talk about the look of a microphone, but other people hate when I don't mention it. So what can I do to make y'all happy? Okay, I don't know. But now I just switched the Samson Q9X into mid-boost mode. But I just want to start off by saying that I really like the build of the Q9X. I always really liked the build of the Q9U. They are pretty beefy. They wear their big boy pants. They've tried every version of Chunky Soup. But I do think the look and the build quality of the Q9X coming in at $129.99 is pretty impressive. Now, when it comes to the features of the Q9X, I do like the option that it has the flat and mid-boost mode. I think that's really nice for different people with different voices. And since my voice is a little bit higher, I do like that flat mode. And actually, in general, I think that the Samson Q9X is a pretty good microphone for people that do have a little bit higher voices. But it could also sound good on a lot of other voices. I know that Bark from Obscure Mics, he really likes this microphone on his voice, and I think it sounds good too. Now, before I continue talking about sound, I do want to talk about one other quick thing. Well, I guess technically it's two, because there are two missing features when it comes to the Q9X versus the Q9U, not including the USB mode, obviously. But the Q9X lacks a mute button as well as a high-pass filter on the back. Now, with the Q9U, I wasn't a big fan of the mute button, just simply because it didn't have an indicator light on it. If it did have that light, I would have absolutely loved it, because not only could it mute the microphone in USB mode, but it also could mute it in XLR mode. And that's actually kind of a rare thing for the hybrid USB XLR mic. Now, for a dynamic microphone, I understand the indicator light wouldn't really work, but it would have been cool if they would have incorporated some sort of on and off version of that mute button, because I can't tell you how many times that on my own podcast that I've wished that I could just quickly mute my microphone and just rustle around in my papers, do whatever I need to do that's a little bit noisy, and then just turn it back on. And that is one thing that is nice about some handheld dynamic microphones that do have on and off switches. Now, when it comes to the other feature, the high pass filter, I will say that if they did include that and they just had it be a little less aggressive, that would have been really nice. That would have been a cool feature. Now we have the Beta 58A plugged in. Here's the Samson Q9X in flat mode. And once again, here's the Beta 58A. Here's the Q9X in mid-boost mode. Now let's go ahead and talk about the sound of the Q9X. Personally, I was not the biggest fan of the Samson Q9U sound. In fact, I actually didn't give the Samson Q9U a very good grade. But when it came to that blind comparison, it was a little bit eye-opening for me, because quite honestly, I preferred the Q9X over quite a few of those microphones. One of those microphones being the Q9U. But also, I absolutely prefer the Q9X over the Rode PodMic and the AT2040. Now, just based off of price, I do think I would probably lean someone toward the Q9X over the MV7X. But sound is subjective. You have your own opinion, you have your own voice, and you need to make the decision for what's going to sound good and work for you. But I do think that even though it was confirmed to me that this is the same capsule as the Q9U, I still think that they did a good job tweaking the capsule and making it sound better. And now I'm back in flat mode, and I do just want to say that I like both flat and mid-boost mode. I think they both do sound good. I could see myself using flat mode and then controlling a presence boost if I wanted it in post. But like I said before, I do love the fact that it has the option between flat and mid-boost mode. But when it comes to the sound of the Q9X around $130, I do think it's pretty good. Is it the best sounding microphone ever? No, it's not. There are definitely better, more expensive microphones out there, but I like to review the microphone for the price that it sits at and the competition that it's going against. And with that being said, I think the Q9X sits at a pretty good point where it sounds good, it's built well, and it gives you pretty much everything that you need, especially for its reasonable price. I'm sure that some people that have the Q9U or want a USB microphone are going to be a little bit frustrated that the Q9X does sound a little bit better and that they don't get that with the more expensive Q9U. And with that being noted, I've got to say that if you are looking for a USB microphone, I don't think the Q9U is the right choice. However, if you're looking for a microphone around this price point and you want it to look like this, you want it to mimic the broadcast style, at this price point, you could definitely do worse than the Q9X. And I've got to say, the Q9X is definitely your podcast, spoken word, YouTube exclusive microphone. This is not a musician's microphone. And in fact, on the guitar, I wasn't a big fan of it, especially the electric guitar in mid-boost mode. That was a little rough. And now we're back in mid-boost mode on the Q9X, and with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into my rating. Recently, Bark and I from Obscure Mics did come up with a standardized way of rating microphones. We call it the BB-SOR or the BB-SAR. I don't know, one of those. It stands for Bark and Bronson's, that's me, standardized audio rating. I'm like 72% sure that was right. But instead of giving letter grades like I used to, that could kind of be confusing for some people, I decided the numeric 0 through 10 would be better. So that graphic is up on the screen right now, and while it's there, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I give the Samson Q9X a 9. I think this microphone is good for its price point. This microphone has definitely made it so I won't ever recommend the Rode PodMic ever again. I guess I haven't been doing that recently. And not to throw too much shade on the Rode PodMic, you can definitely make that microphone work. You need some EQ though, for sure. And with that being said, I know that I did give the Rode PodMic a good review back in the day, but I've got to say that as more competition comes out, more microphones are released, older things are just going to not sound as good, or maybe newer things aren't going to sound as good. You never know. But since the Rode PodMic, there have been a lot of microphones like it that have come out that I do prefer over it. The Q9X being one of them. But I'm going to go ahead and take this out now. But if you are looking for a microphone like this, I do recommend the Q9X at this price point. Thank you for watching this video, and if it did help you out, if you wouldn't mind pressing that little thumbs up thing, that would be amazing. And if you want to see more, if you wouldn't mind subscribing, that would be awesome. And a big thank you to everyone that has already subscribed. You are amazing. And the biggest thank you to all the lovely members of the audio hotline. Would you just look at those gorgeous names up there? They truly are gods and goddesses with gorgeous booties, I'm assuming. If you want to have a godly badonkadonk like these lovely names up here, go ahead and press join down below. Also, a big thank you to Samson for sending this microphone over for review. I'm glad that I was able to try it out and give it an honest review. No money exchanged hands. They did not sponsor this video. They just sent the microphone over so I could tell you how I felt about it. But I hope this video helped you out, helped you decide whether you want to get the Samson Q9X. But most of all, I hope you had fun. I'll see you audio nerds next time.